episode 31 of the reading of Michael McCoy's Garden. And today's episode, marked the 15th of December 1998, starts with a little picture of Brolly, our cat at the time, Brolly the midnight cat, reclining with evil look in its eye on the gravel there, and the caption says, Brolly, who is likely to pounce from the deep, dark recesses of the garden at any moment, attack, then disappear just as quickly. The younger daughter laughs hysterically, the older bursts into tears. 15th of December 1998. The gravel garden has been gravelled. After much deliberation about the exact colour of gravel I wanted, I wound up buying the cheapest. The transformation was instantaneous. I knew that the gravel would make an even textured background, and I knew it had to be pale, but I had no idea what a change the bright background would make to my whole visual perception of the garden. Shapes, forms and foliages stand out, are almost exaggerated by being backlit. Throwing buckets of gravel around underplants was like throwing buckets of light beneath dark shrubs and the tall perennials. Most colours appear much cleaner and brighter, particularly anything in the blue or purple range of the spectrum. Weakish colours like that of the pinky mauve Talbagia violacea are strengthened. Some of the very dark foliages like that of the annual red oric or the purple plantain appear almost silhouetted, which isn't to their advantage, but it only reinforces the point that these dark colours in any setting need to be used sparingly and carefully. There's a few pictures there of the gravel garden as it was starting to, well, at this point, this must have been when it was open. But yeah, just to give you some idea of where we were headed. The gravel running in from path to garden bed has also validated some of the areas of very sparse planting. Mostly these areas resulted simply from my own indecision about what to put in, but now that they're gravelled, they appear complete. I wanted the density of the plantings to dissipate at the edges, but this is impossible to achieve with any traditional idea of path and bed as separate. The gravel allows visually for low clumps of plants, such as the aforementioned Talbagia, to be pulled or teased out from the main planting, appearing in semi-isolation in the gravel. This was an unexpected benefit. The 28th of December 1998, with 8 weeks to go until opening. I went around the other day with a whole lot of seed packets that I had left over from this and other years and cast the seeds around the gravel garden. For some that I particularly wanted to succeed, or seed that was too large to fall between the gravel was scraped away, a bit of soil cultivated, the seed planted, and the gravel replaced. I have no idea whether this is going to work. I expect that some seed will find itself too deep to emerge through the gravel, but there's little to lose. Nasturtiums germinated a day or two ago. Then this morning I noticed the first two leaves of several other things appearing, though I had to be on my hands and knees to see them. I didn't mark where I put what, so I have no idea what it is that's coming up. The possible list includes red flax, night phlox, mignonette, a little marigold, double orange crepe poppy, a lemon Californian poppy, a tulip poppy, and night-scented stock. Yesterday I had to do a panic planting of sunflower seeds in the orange border. Initial sowings of Tithonia had largely failed, as had follow-up direct sowings in the border. Sunflowers are the only thing that can now achieve the height required before the season is over. The border is totally out of balance. Nicotiana lime green, which has never yet overwintered for me, reshot strongly after winter and is now in full bloom. Nearby is Helenium Mohan Beauty, just starting to show its orange daisy flower buds on metre-high plants in front of the rapidly bulking dahlias. There is absolutely nothing in the back. I hate this sort of balance problem. I can live without flowers in a perennial border timed for late flowering, but it really needs to be bulking out with some sense of balance and proportion, and should at least be looking fullish, even if there is only foliage. The front garden, for instance, is yet to bloom, but is filling out with the relative heights just as I wanted them. This squarish area was supposed, by the end of summer, to be dramatically high on 2.5 sides, quite low towards the front, with all heights dropping rapidly to the lowest point just forward of the centre, provided by nasturtiums. My intention was to create a virtual pool of nasturtiums sitting like liquid amongst higher plants. Though everything will yet grow nearly twice as tall, the foliage and height juxtapositions are already really pleasing. 30th of December 1998. So often I read of grasses in the garden swaying pleasantly in the gentlest of breezes. The downside of this is that if there is a light wind, the garden can look like it's been whipped around by a tornado. My Stipa tenuissima, with which I've fallen in love, constantly looks like it has to hang on for dear life or be torn up by its roots. Meanwhile, everything else looks the very picture of relaxation and comfort. It's really interesting to think about all of that direct sowing. I don't know about your experience. My experience of direct sowing is that it's absolutely fraught, that you might get a tiny proportion of your seeds coming up. And one of the main challenges of that I find is that mostly my soil is anything but weed free, and your weeds are going to germinate sooner and grow stronger and faster than the plants that you're trying to nurture. And they'll often end up swamping the very things you really want. So anything that is sufficiently precious, I'll always, by preference, sow off-site in a pot or a tray and then transplant it in. But with things like Californian poppies, that's really tricky. They don't really like the transplant process. So some things are really better direct sown. But in this case, my memory of it is, I can't quite remember what I say later in the book, but my memory of it is that it was not at all successful. But look, it was seed that was sitting around anyway, so what was there to lose?